So in this problem, we're asked to graph 9x squared plus 16y squared equals 144. We should recognize that because we have an x squared term, y squared term, and they're being added, that this does represent an ellipse. That said, in order to graph it, we have to, at least for now, in order to graph it and get our major and minor axis vertices, we need this form, x squared over a squared plus y squared over b squared equals 1. So how do we get from what we're given to that form? Well, how we get there is we want 1 on the right-hand side. So we divide everything by 144. So 9x squared divided by 144 plus 16y squared divided by 144 equals 144 divided by 144. Well, 144 divided by 9 is 16. So the 9 cancels and we're left with 16 under x squared. Similarly, 16 goes into 144 9 times. So we have y squared over 9 equals 1. Now remember, a is how far we go. In this case, since it's under x, left and right. B is how far we go up and down, because that's what's under y squared. So how do we get these vertices? First off, let's look at the major axis. Since 16 is greater than 9, we know it has a horizontal major axis. Because nothing's being subtracted from x, nothing's being subtracted or added to y before it's squared, we know that the center is at 0, 0. So now let's find our vertices. So we first look at the major axis. Remember, 16 is greater than 9, so we'll start with x equals the square root of a squared, so the square root of 16. We need our plus or minus before our square root. So x equals plus or minus 4. That means our major axis vertices are at negative 4, 0 and 4, 0. So let's go ahead and graph those or plot those. Negative 4, 0 and 4, 0. Now our minor axis, which is the y-axis in this case, we know that y is going to be equal to plus or minus the square root of whatever is underneath y squared, which in this case is 9. So y equals plus or minus 3. So our minor axis vertices are going to be at 0, negative 3 and 0, 3. So we plot those as well. And then similar to when we were graphing circles, connect the dots in each quadrant to get our ellipse. And you should notice that it's slightly wider than it is tall up and down, verifying that our major axis is horizontal. It's the x-axis. So again, we get it in standard form by dividing both sides by 144. That gives us x squared over 16 plus y squared over 9 equals 1. There's nothing being subtracted or added to x or y before it's being squared, so we know the center is 0, 0. It has a major axis that's horizontal because 16 is greater than 9. And then we just find the square root of our denominators in order to find the points that make up the major axis vertices and the minor axis vertices, and finally connect the dots in order to graph our ellipse.